Good morning, listeners, and I'd just like to welcome our two guests today, which is John and Joe Goodluck. I've known them for a while, and their energies will be very good on this new channel that we have here. Before we start to interview, John and Joe's going to play us something. Just listen and let the words resonate and the song with you. So take it away, Joe. And
Mother moon shining down on me, I am you, you are me. We are part of everything, we are part of everything. There's power in the music, and power in the song. The music's making magic, so let us pass magic on. The magic's in the people who set our music free. The moon pounds on the water, and it's where we wanna be. Shine down on me, I am you, you are me. We are part of everything, we are part of everything.
brilliant. Thank you very much. I told you that he's my special guest, didn't I, last time? So I'd like to ask you both individually, whoever wants to answer, the inspiration behind these songs. I know some are written by other people who we know and we may have on the show later on, but the inspiration seems to be drawn from nature. Can you explain that? How does nature go to the song to you?
Very, very important. That particular one is because of the moon, the magic of the moon, the way the moon controls everything and organises everything. Without the moon, we wouldn't exist. That controls the tides, and it controls all the animals, and it controls our feelings, it's everything.
Seasons.
And that was a chant that we have down at our chant group, because we meet at the third Wednesday in the Welcome Hall, and we have a chant group, and these chants inspire the music. That was one I wrote. I write some music, Joe writes music, and Sheila Haskins, our other songwriter. And the actual song was the reason why the CD of ours is called Moon Pathways, because it's the pathway, the way the moon comes across the sea and the river, and it forms a pathway of light that looks like a path you could walk on.
Do you know what, John? You don't need any promotion for your CD. But that's really good.
In the myths, that pathway is meant to be the way to the other world, you see.
Right, I do, and that leads me nicely into a situation whereby I know that your beliefs and what resonates with you is what modern day people will call paganism. Can you just explain what your adaptation of paganism is?
I think we're witches. We're unashamedly witches.
Right, okay. Can you enlighten me?
Some people are frightened of saying they're witches because, to be honest, I mean, I'm so old now that I can remember in my youth watching my granny walk down the lane to get herbs to help ailments. She would pick herbs, and she would dry herbs, and she would use herbs to pick ailments. Now, in the old days, she would probably have been known as a witch. She wore black, she wore a shawl and everything because her husband had been killed in the war. But she would say she was a Christian because she was a Christian. And but only because we were forced into Christianity at that point, really, by the pressures around us. I mean, at school we were taught.
I do understand what you're saying.
And
yeah.
that, because I spent a long time with my grandmother, that had a big impact on me to see how she would use nature to cure her ailments and to make herself well. And it just came through. It's come through my life. My life has evolved like that. And Joe, what have you got to say on the subject?
Well, I think that the original spiritual and religious beliefs of these islands were, as we say, sort of crushed down by the introduction of Christianity from the Mediterranean, and we're trying to get back to what we feel is naturally ours.
I understand perfectly. I know exactly where you're coming from, but for this show we're talking about how the listeners would feel, because people tune in because they want to get some perspective on different people's beliefs and understanding.
We would never go against Christianity. I always say one God's better than none at all.
Well, there is that at all, and I always put you up, and just reiterating a bit, so you're not that old, you're only 8.5 years older than me. So you don't need to worry about that.
I feel as if I've been around forever.
8 years, I beg your pardon, all of them. But having said that, then you are right with what you're saying, and people will resonate with that, whereby it's almost like an indoctrination they had from when they go to school.
Yeah.
They had to conform to this, conform to that. And
I've been sent to the headmaster for the cane for not believing in the man who built the boat that could take all the animals and save them from drowning. I couldn't see, I argued with the teacher because as a small child I couldn't see how you could put a lion on a boat with a deer and it didn't kill it and all that sort of thing. I didn't understand a fox with a rabbit. I couldn't understand how anybody could build a boat big enough to take all those animals and all that stuff that comes out of animals and to feed all the animals. I just couldn't see it, so I argued with the teacher and I was sent to the headmaster for the cane. Now, the funny thing was, the headmaster was a great follower of me because I used to bring owl pellets into school for him, and he used to use them to dissect the owl pellets to see what the owls had been eating, and he used to slap his desk with the cane, and I had to go back and made out I'd had the cane. And it's brilliant system. He was brilliant.
hence the saying, no cane, no pain.
But that was, that arguing, being sent for the cane because you disagreed with a man who built a boat was ridiculous.
I think, unfortunately, that people will have their own beliefs, and I don't really want to get into that too much at the moment, because within shows they'll be talking about that different prospect as we go along. But as for you here now, I do understand, and you said you're witches, and I do understand that, that's fair enough. It's a culture that, don't you think that before Christianity came along, everything was pagan? Every belief that wasn't Christianity and didn't conform with the way we are today.
I think it is. I think it's a very, very, very old religion.
It is. And a witch is what? The definition of a witch is someone who picks herbs.
Yeah.
And medicine is what?
And
herbal.
deliver babies.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they had the knowledge. They had knowledge that has been lost. A lot of it has been lost because they've been pushed down.
Yeah.
And murdered. I mean, burnt and hung because somebody wanted their ground, their land.
Well, it's
It's a
control.
greed
It was a
system.
control
That is to
situation.
say
Control.
that that there isn't a lot of magic in the Bible. I mean, there's even a witch in there.
Yes, there are. I was getting onto that, Joe. That's very well read. I thank you.
But it's not that in a way that their beliefs are that much different from anybody else, because they have a dying and a resurrecting God in the way that paganism, in like the Greek myths, have several, dying and resurrecting figures that bring back life to the earth and all this sort of thing. But it's just that it insisted on dominating, didn't it? Insisted, became, hand in glove with the state and all this, and dominated the whole thing and took away people's choice, what with heresy and all this. I mean, these days we can say what we like without, the fear of being, taken away because we disagree with the Archbishop of Canterbury or something like that. Now is different, and that's just a historical progression, isn't it?
It is, but unfortunately that with this historical progression, as you say, and with the domination of Christianity comes control. And that control,
that's what it's all about.
That control has been there right from the first Pope, and as we know, the first Pope was okay, he was for the people. He created the monasteries, created their knights, and they became Knights of the Templar, and the Pope was murdered by the King, and so were all the Knights Templar. And that's where control took into things, and then the witches and the Witchfinder General and all that came along.
From Missley. Matthew Hopkins.
Not too far away. Manningtree, yes.
It all got a bit fraught in those times, didn't it? Because it became sort of an instrument of repression, and the core values, I suppose, of Christianity didn't seem to, that Christ's message of love and all this sort of thing, where was it in those days?
Well, I have to beg the question, where is it now?
Yeah, where is it now?
But at the end of the day, that's other people's perspectives, and I have to look at it for everybody, so that nobody thinks we're biased when we're talking about this. I will ask you one more question, and then if you would, I would like you to play something else. That'd be very good. And I will say, listeners, that I have the pleasure that joining the Bards and playing the Baron, which I really enjoy doing. I like the atmosphere and I like the music. I have always liked the music. I've always been in a situation whereby I embrace everything. And that's how I think why I get on so much with you two. But anyway, having said that, if you'd like to, I'll just ask you one more question at the moment, and that is that what brought you into paganism to where you are now?
Well, I, as you know, have some ancestry that lies abroad, because my grandfather came to Britain in the First World War to fight in the war from Saskatchewan in Canada, and he was a French Canadian. He was obviously partly French and partly Cree Indian, and I think that you do carry a lot of things in your DNA, if you like, in your makeup, and you feel drawn, inexplicably drawn to things that are in your ancestry. And I always felt drawn to the natural world, to arts and crafts, to music, and all those sorts of things are in my past. We sort of lost touch with that side of the family because my grandfather died here just after the First World War, and so we were sort of in this country and we didn't really know anything about that side of our family until more recently. And but I think that's in your it's in your inheritance, I think, and it's what with the modern world. I think there's been a resurgence generally of, as we say, of more people are more open to all faiths of all around the world, and that in the last sort of 100 years, you know, we've allowed worship and various faiths and things to come to the fore in this country and that, and so I think it's all blossoming and coming out.
I think you're right, Joe. I think it's hit the nail right on the head. People have more chance to be open today, whereby there is more around them that they can have a look at. Unfortunately, when we are born, we are dictated through peer pressure to whatever beliefs happen to be. When we go to school from the age of 5, it used to be 5 when I was 4 now, but you know, when we go to school, it's a case that we are indoctrinated into the beliefs of the school through assemblies and other things that are there. When we get to a point whereby we can make up our own minds, if you like, and that could be at any time, from a teenager, adolescence, whatever, sometimes we don't want to rock any boats to upset anybody, so we don't, and we carry on. But there is a time, or there comes a time in our life whereby we question what there is. And as I was talking to Neil last week in the interview, there is a difference between being spirituality and religion. Spirituality is for everybody, and we just sit down and we can just go in the open and be with the animals, be with the environment, take in what is there. That's being spiritual.
Well, we have a very happy lifestyle because our garden, we have a garden that's full of hedges, just hedges all the way around, ivy on the wall, and all the sparrows and robins nest in there, the blackbirds nest in the hedge, and we've got 3 cats, and we never lose a bird to the cats. The cats will sit with us and watch the birds, but they've learnt that the birds are not hunting, they're part of the garden, and we never lose any birds because of the cats. It's incredible how the two can get on, but they seem to. I've even seen blackbird and the cat eating out of the same dish, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But we've just got a happy lifestyle because of the lifestyle we have. We have a little boat down on the Deben, and we go and sit on that sometimes, watch the seals and watch the geese come in and watch the jackdaws come in to roost at night. And it's that closeness we have with nature which keeps us very happy. And it's these songs, I mean, these songs are all of a very spiritual nature. Basis.
They are. I've got to say, John, they are. And your lifestyle, is a lot in your lifestyle that I can take on board. I mean, I had boats. I had 2 boats. They were trawling. I used to go down the ferry. I had them. And and we used to do that as beer money in those days. That was in the 60s, sort of like that was beer money. But having said that, then I'd always been close with nature.
Yeah.
Always been close. And I laugh with people today, where they talk about animals and I talk about everything else, and with great respect, I say you can't love them that much because you eat them.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, from your perspective, I'm not a vegetarian.
No, that's what I said with great respect. So, let's get on, and can you play us another number, please?
We'll play Roslyn Castle, which is an important one that we do, that Joe wrote these words, very cleverly wrote them in the history of that tune. And it's an old tune. If you go on YouTube, you'll find probably 20 or more people who are playing that tune. But we loved that tune. It's an old, lovely old tune. And Joe put words to them to suit that particular song.
Well, they're all based on the myths that surround Roslyn Castle, which is obviously up there close to Roslyn Chapel, which is as you know, owned by the Sinclair family, who were all mixed up with the Knights Templar.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That sort of thing.
We'll do a couple of verses. We won't do the whole
So,
thing, because if you want to get the whole thing, you need to spend a fiver. But
You don't change.
no, but the thing is that the one on here has got fiddle on it and beautiful instruments on it that help the whole tune, whereas we're quite bare as we are. But
I like,
you know.
I like, when we're, listeners, I did have a privilege to play with both these guys at Woodbridge, and I thought the sound there just resonated through the whole place.
Yeah,
And that was nice.
healers have actually now saying to me that our music helps their healing. It helps what they're doing. It when they're doing a healing session on somebody and we start to play a number, that particular song helps that healing session, makes it quicker, makes it more effective. And it's lovely to hear that, you know. We had a song we've written a while back, and we were playing this particular song down at Woodbridge. Actually, Can You Hear the Heartbeat of the Earth?
I remember that.
And when we were playing Can You Hear the Heartbeat of the Earth, Keith Goodwin, who was doing some healing a short distance away, was just saying to his patient, just relax and try and feel the heartbeat of the earth. And we started singing this song, and he said it was absolute magic for him.
I'll have to remember that again, because Keith is coming on another time.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Great guy. Roslyn Castle, there we go. We'll do a couple of verses.
It's
I have
all.
to say, we're not playing the whole tune here. We're just playing bits of the tune, of the song.
I know, and it sounds very good.
Yeah.
All my guests that have been on here have flowed very nicely into each other, if you don't mind me saying so. All interviews have flowed very nicely. The reason being is because I'd like to think that it's the relaxed atmosphere that's here and nothing else. But I'm not going to take all the credit, because I know that what goes on behind the scenes is more than me just interviewing you. So we'll just give a mention to those that goes behind the scenes, so that they know that their work is invalid. So that's we'll put that straight to start.
The welcome hall where we have the chant sessions, it's a magical place. It's an incredible place. And I don't know whether it's years of chanting in there that's created that space.
There's lots of energies on the ley lines that run through there.
Ley lines there.
Because there's two main lines. There's lots that go across, but there's two main lines that cross.
See, you should talk to Mike Kettle.
And he's coming on here as well.
Good.
Well, he doesn't know it at the moment.
We'll try and persuade.
But he will do. I mean, as you know, he talked at the sanctuary we have.
When we one of our favourite eating houses down at Newbourne. I won't say the name in case but the Fox, all right then.
There are many other eating houses.
we go down there, and because Mike has found the ley lines that run through the Fox, the manager of the Fox puts our table right on that ley line when we phone for a meal. So you'll find us sitting on the same table.
I used to go to the Fox a lot. Because I used to be a Morris dancer.
Oh yes, they do, yeah.
And the last time I did, and I played Baron at the Morris dancing. The last time we did that was quite a few years ago, but that was at the Newbourne Fox. And before that, then I've always been playing the drums. I played drums in a rock band.
Yeah.
But I mean, music and that thing, I always associate around the Newbourne Fox.
Yeah, it does, and it's with its lovely big pond there.
And that's Newbourne Fox. You've got another plug.
Yeah. and it's cycling distance from our house. That's a lovely thing.
So there you go.
You couldn't be better.
Time is getting on, and as you know, that we need to finish at a certain time. But having said that, I don't want to let you go just at the moment, because I can't. I need to ask you a couple more questions, and then if you can play us out, if you could, that'd be very nice.
Beautiful tune we have there.
Let's ask you first that I had the pleasure of coming to yours to celebrate Beltane. The atmosphere was magic, and the person I brought with me was very sceptical, to say the least, but came right into the situation afterwards. Can you just explain just a little what Beltane is to our listeners?
Well, it's an ancient Celtic festival which was originally to celebrate the god Bel, who was to do with the fires. It's a fire festival, really, of spring, and they would what they call s'more their fires, which is basically to put them out, all round everybody would put their fire out, and then a new fire would be kindled, possibly from the sun or possibly from wood, with a wood drill. A new fire would be kindled, and then everyone would take a piece of that fire back to their own hearth, because the fire and the hearth are obviously very important places. In paganism, the hearth is like the altar of the home. In modern times we still have the mantelpiece around the hearth with little things on it. In a way, that's a little kind of altar around the sacred fire, because we need the fire. The fire gives us warmth. We cook with the fire, and the fire is something that, as the Greeks said, is from the gods. and so that is the spring celebration of this new fire, and it's also the time of, you know, the resurgence of life in vegetation, and animals are all bringing forth around us, and folks felt that this fertility was to be celebrated, and they used to apparently drive their cattle through the Beltane bonfires and leap over the flames themselves
Like he did.
to purify themselves for the new year.
Yeah.
Yes,
Really didn't.
and so you were purified through the flames and smoke.
This goes right across
And,
the country, right across
Yeah, I
the
know.
road. Because I was living in France for a while, down in the south of France on a boat, and I remember one year there was a wedding, and it was a wedding from the local bull people, you know, that lived on the Camargue.
Oh, right, yeah.
And they came and they lit a large bonfire on the beach, and I sat with amazement watching this wedding take place. And then they started leaping the fire on horseback,
Oh, right.
and even the bride herself, sitting side saddle, leapt on horseback, which I thought was amazing. You know,
Yeah.
to see that was quite incredible. But
Yeah, exactly.
it reminded me, it was Beltane time, and it just reminded me of how our Belfires are.
Yeah.
You are
That's-
supposed to jump them, you know.
You are, yeah.
Yeah.
If I'd have been younger, I would have done it. But unfortunately,
I did have a go. I did get over the
you
fire.
did, and I have to say, bigger for you, really. But I know you, John.
I'm still trying.
The last question will be, and that is, if there is anything in life that has been brought back through history, do you think it matters if we put a name on it, whether it be paganism, Buddhism, Muslimism, or anything else with an ism on it? Do you think it matters, or do we all resonate with all kinds of beliefs and faiths?
It matters greatly to me, because when I was, like a lot of people these days, we look to see where our name has come from. And when I was researching our name, and I asked a knowledgeable man about where the name Good Luck came from, he traced it back to Guthlac. And Guthlac was Saint Guthlac of Crowland. And I've since been to Crowland to see it, and I visited the Guthlac house and the Guthlac cathedral there, and he was a saint. And he was a healing man, he healed. But before that, until he was 24 years old, he was a mercenary, and he worked for the king then, or the landowners, and he went round slaughtering. So he did that for a while, and then he gentled up a bit and lived on the fens of Crowland. And that, his background, when I discovered that, it meant a huge amount to me, because he was, all right, a saint in that maybe Christianity, but I've read more about him, and I've discovered how close he was to birds and how close he was to nature, and that's exactly what I am. So I'm a part of what he was. You know, I'm carrying his genes, and that's meant a huge amount to me, to almost put a stamp of approval on what I'm doing.
I do understand what you're saying, and at the end of the day, then a lot of us can go back in our history to find out where we have come from and where we have resonated from. What I was trying to do is that, just to say, does it matter what you believe in if you're content in what you believe in, and you understand that nature and the universe are all at one, so we're all at one with everything?
I don't really argue with any other religion.
No.
I think all religions, as long as they accept nature and they take it into their livable ways, I think it's perfect. I think anything is okay. We never ask, we never question anybody who comes to our rituals, or we never question anyone who would listen to our music, and I haven't even questioned my band members. What I've done from the area is take the very best people who play their instruments perfectly for that sound, and I've asked them to join the Bards, and they've come along willingly and joined the Bards, and they willingly join in with all these songs. I've never once asked any of them, are you a pagan?
No.
I've never said you can't play that song, because you're not.
I do.
So
I think the trouble these days is that there might be a lot of sort of cherry picking going on in the spiritual world or the new agey world, and they, in a way, they can sort of disrespect certain groups' beliefs, because around the world, obviously tribal groups and things have certain beliefs about their particular god and the way things should be done, and sort of different things for men and women, like even like sweat lodge. I mean, that is a man's, sweat lodge is a man's thing in the traditional Native American thing. Women don't do it, you see. But nowadays you get like European women and that saying, oh, I've done sweat lodge and all this sort of thing, and I'm thinking, well, you shouldn't have, because that's not your cherry picking things out of the ether to suit yourself, sort of thing, without fully understanding what you're doing, really, I suppose, is the thing.
I think that's quite true. You have a way of spotting things, right? That's really
if
good.
You're gonna, if you're gonna be, I don't know, a druid or something particular, that is good, because you are then following a particular way, and I mean even taboos and things like that, things you mustn't do, and all this sort of thing come into it, doesn't it? And so it's good to follow something even in a strict sort of way. But nowadays, I think there's a lot of sort of laxness and mumbo jumbo, as I call it, sort of thing going on, and I think people should study things more deeply.
Hear, hear.
And
find out and research.
Yes.
I do quite agree. And I'll reiterate again, Joe, you have this way of putting your finger right on the questions that I'm asking. And that's really, really good. Before you play us out, I would just like to say thank you so much to both of you for coming and agreeing to come along today and being put on the spot, sort of like, but being honest in your questioning and your answers. So thank you very much, and would you like to play us out?
This particular song is written by a lady who works for the library in Woodbridge, and she's written some lovely songs of ours, and they became songs when I heard her do them as poetry. I heard her do the poetry of these songs, and I said to her, would you mind if I put music to those? And she said no. So we went home and put music to them, and they're beautiful things. So I'll do a couple of verses and then we'll go into the tune, Joe.
Mm-hmm. How many tunes do you do once through the tune?
Yeah. Her breath sweetly scented meadow, her hair is a ruby red and yellow, drifting through vale and woodland trees, this winsome lass does gather leaves, her death blinking of an eye, rushed lady passing by, her death blinking of an eye.
thank you very much, my guest listeners, and we'll see you when we meet again. Thank you for watching.
And don't forget, just a fiver.